I'm an 18-year-old male. I was adopted by a couple who separated shortly after my adoption, and I was eventually taken away from them and placed into foster care when I was 3. So that's where I grew up. Recently, I acquired details about my biological parents from a family friend who helped connect them to my adoptive parents all those years ago. So I looked them up online and found out that they have 3 children, a boy, a teen, and twin girls, young teens. The son has the same name as mine. A few weeks ago, I went to the church they go to and saw them from a distance. I didn't introduce myself. I just wanted to see them before they knew who I was. I also figured out where they live, where the kids go to school, where they work, and other general information. About 2 weeks ago, I finally sent a message to my mom explaining who I was and telling her that I would like to meet them. She saw the message that day but didn't reply for a whole week, and then just sent a very short note telling me that they're not interested in knowing more about me or having me in their lives, not contact her or her family ever again. I sent a message to my dad then, and he said we could have a phone call. We had that call last week. He didn't even let me tell him anything about myself. He explained that they had me when they were 22 and didn't want a child back then, so they gave me to another couple, and there's really nothing for us to discuss. He said he didn't want to know more about me or hear from me again. I'm not going to lie. That was difficult to hear, and I needed a few days to process it, but I get it. They didn't want me then, and they don't want me now. I'm trying my best to get over it, but I still have 3 siblings. Maybe they would want to get to know me. So I sent another message to my dad and thanked him for taking the time to speak with me and being frank about what he wanted. I explained that I respect the fact that he and my mom don't want me in their lives, and that's their choice, and I will respect that. However, I have 3 siblings, and I would like to meet and get to know them, so I said I'm happy for them to tell them. He called me an hour later. This time, he was angry and told me that he had made it clear that I had no place in their family, and that I should stay away from all 5 of them forever. I wasn't expecting him to call me or the aggression, but I was like, but that should be their choice. Then he said he's not going to discuss his family with me. He ended the call by saying, "Do not contact any of us ever again." Am I the idiot if I went to talk to my siblings, introduce myself, and let them know they have an older brother? I'm not trying to be an idiot here, but I don't think the parents get to make this decision about the children. I do want a relationship with my siblings, of course, only if they want. Sure, I want that too. If my siblings don't want to get to know me, I'll stay away from them. If you are the idiot, but not once the eldest turns 18. Reach out to him then, and he can decide whether to tell the younger sisters. If he doesn't, reach out to them when they turn 18. Just be sure to respect any boundaries they set. I would advise waiting until the girls are 18. Everyone involved would be an adult by then. However, I think Ope should consider something besides reaching out to his siblings. Go get registered on an ancestry site or 23andMe. Let the ball roll from there. I think it's very interesting that their second son has the same name as you do. And while they probably don't want to explain to that son, the possible reason is that he was your replacement for when they were ready for kids. Going with this route, they may be able to cut you off from your siblings for now. However, they won't be able to control the actions of relatives who want to get to know you. Not only will DNA testing reveal this, but it sounds like they all live in the same general area. Some people know enough about the situation to put Op in touch with the bio parents, and the two boys have the same freaking name. This isn't going to remain a secret, and there's going to be tension between the parents and the siblings, because most kids aren't thrilled when they find out that their parents lied to them. You are the idiot. You're prepared to upend children's lives to satisfy your desires and cause significant emotional distress. And for what? Do not contact them. Daily pixdisen, so leave those poor children alone. And go get therapy for yourself. Sounds like you've been through a lot and you're now looking for a quick fix, ready-made family. My girlfriend Jen, 19 female, and I, 19 male, are both done with school for the summer. She has a brother, a young teen, and a sister, a tween. But when she and I go somewhere like the beach or park, she wants to bring her siblings along. She says they'll spend the whole summer sitting around the house if she doesn't take them to fun places. Ben isn't working right now, but I am. So if we do something that costs money, I pay. Sometimes it's annoying because her siblings don't say thank you or show any appreciation and act like it's my job or expect it. Jen doesn't want me to tell their parents when they misbehave. Parents ask because she thinks they won't want to spend time with her. So basically, they can be as annoying as they want and nothing happens. Anyway, yesterday after work, we went to the beach. They weren't listening and were acting up the whole time. We all brought a bottle of water along. I finished mine before we left. Kids still had most of their water left. When we were in the car, I said I'd be right back and ran to the pavilion to get a soda from the vending machine. I got myself a Mountain Dew and Jen a lemonade. They were like $4 each. I definitely wasn't buying the kids a soda. When I returned to the car, I gave her the lemonade and she asked if I got them sodas. I said no, they still have water left and I'm not rewarding their bad behavior. Besides, last time they had soda, they left them half drunk in the car. My car isn't their garbage can. She gave them some of her lemonade. After we dropped them off, she said, "It's not my job to parent them." I said I wasn't parenting them, but I wasn't buying them a reward for acting up all day. She said you can't withhold food and drink from a kid when they misbehave. I said they both still had water. If they were thirsty, they had something to drink. She said, all kids want soda over water. That meant basically, haha, you don't get any. You were a bully to the kids. I said, when I was a kid and misbehaved, my parents wouldn't get me a treat. She said, yeah, your parents, but you're not their parent. Oh wait, I said, no, but it's my money. Not our money, and I didn't want to spend $8 on sodas they wouldn't finish. She said I was being an idiot and wanted to go home, so I took her home. I don't have kids, so maybe I'm wrong, but I didn't get rewarded for being a brat when I was a kid. Am I the idiot for not getting the soda? Not the idiot. Your girlfriend's the idiot for acting entitled to your hard-earned money. She or her parents can pay if she wants stuff bought for her siblings. I pain and 100 double sini prour. And 100D, you two are the adults in this situation, and therefore can enforce the rules on the kids. So basic manners aren't too much to ask. Usually, babysitters make money to spend time with kids. This poor dude is losing money. Is he sure his girlfriend isn't pocketing money her parents gave her for her siblings? I'd also start telling the actual parents the truth about how the kids are behaving. She's right, you're not their parents. So there's no reason you need to have them tag along anytime you want to do something with your girlfriend. You need to reconsider if you want to be in this relationship and lay down an ultimatum. No more kids tagging along on your dates. You certainly shouldn't pay a dime for them. If she doesn't like that, you should consider ending things, because it doesn't sound like her family situation is compatible with you. When your girlfriend says you're not their parents, she's so close to getting the point. So close. They're using you and taking advantage of you. Stand up for yourself. It's close to $16,000 a year after aid. I'm suddenly worried about providing for my younger sons. I'm a single dad now that I have this financial monkey on my back. A few weeks before my son graduated, his class had an assembly where they gave out scholarship money. The money was raised from foundations or groups like Rotary. My son won 2 awards, totaling $10,000. The problem was that we thought we were on the same page regarding the money. I said it was going to be used for school, and he agreed. I meant that it would be used to pay me back, since I already paid for a school, and he meant that he would go to college with $10K to spend as he sees fit. Of course, he says that it's his money, and I'm saying it's not. It's for college, and since I paid for it, it goes to paying me back. I would never have to factor that money into everything if I hadn't known he was getting it. I told him I was not messing around, and all I had to do was tell the teacher who was in charge of distributing money to send the check in my name. He will do it. Of course, I'd rather have my son see it my way before having to override him like he's 11. He didn't earn squat. The teacher in charge of the money said it was more of a popularity contest and gave bragging rights to the school and donors to say that they sent kids to UCBSBO. You are the idiot. You should have had a serious conversation with your son about this long ago. Also, you saved this up for him to pay you back. Most parents save up a college fund for their kids for exactly that, to get them through college. That's it. No exceptions for their kids to pay them back. Sorry, you had more kids than you planned for, but it's kind of crappy of you to expect your child to do that. Shouldn't you be happy that your kid made it to college, got those scholarships, and support him instead of dogging him about money? Thought the idiot. People who donated that money for the scholarship, I'm sure, did not intend for it to be used for whatever. They donated with the intention that it would be used for tuition, books, and room. I don't think the father has the right to the money, but it isn't the kid's money to do whatever he feels like with it. That is not in the spirit of a scholarship. You also can't take claim of his scholarship money. If he's an adult, the money will be legally made out in his name. You can restart a savings account and hope you'll be able to help out your boys, or they will have to rely on student aid and loans if they choose to go to college. Legally, you have no right to tell your son you now own his award money. He could take you to court and fight you for it. You'll have a huge issue on your hands, and most importantly, you'll strain the relationship with your son. I can already tell you're not going to put the money aside for your other children. You have a troublesome personality. Did you already spend it? And she said, well, what was I supposed to tell people to do with their children? After offering some suggestions about what they could do, some further suggestions as to where she could stick what, and a few words that were a lot harsher than I did, my father-in-law stepped in, apologized, and we came to an agreement. We would allow the children to attend, and mother-in-law and father-in-law would pay for all additional head counts. Everyone would be told that they were responsible for keeping their children under control, and if they didn't, they would be removed. This meant babies would be brought into the cry room at the church if they were crying. Little children were not to run around the reception, and no part of the ceremony was to be interrupted. I had the absolute right to have someone removed if their children were not under control. Supplete mother-in-law took this to mean that if someone's kids were acting up, she'd have time to address it and fix things. I will admit, people were good for the most part. However, we had a few babies crying in the church, and a few kids were being loud, but their parents controlled them and quieted them. Then came our first dance. We were about a minute into the song when I heard people start laughing and whooping. I looked over to see a child had run into the dance floor and started dancing with her arms in the air. I recognized her as the 2-year-old daughter of my wife's cousin. I looked around for her mother and found her laughing and filming her daughter on her cell phone. We finished our dance and I walked over to the venue staff and instructed them to remove her and her daughter from the reception. 2 minutes later, my mother-in-law came flying over, screaming that she didn't do anything wrong and I couldn't remove her. I replied that she'd broken the rules. This is why I didn't want children there and she had to go. My wife agrees with me, but feels bad that her cousin traveled from Louisiana and had to leave the reception. She also hates that her mother is not speaking to us anymore. Her mom says that I'm cruel, evil, and hate children. Father-in-law agrees that the rules were broken and I had the right to kick them out, but thinks a warning would have been appropriate. I contend that we only get one first dance, and knowing what would happen rather than trying to control the situation, her cousin decided to laugh and film her daughter, ruining our first dance. Had she gotten her daughter off the dance floor immediately after it happened, I would not have done anything. It's not that she's an idiot. The cousin cared more about making a funny video than respecting your first dance at your wedding reception. You could have spent all night issuing warnings, or you could have enjoyed your reception. Instead, you chose to act quickly and then enjoy it. Like your wedding, your rules. Your mother-in-law and wife's cousin are major idiots. Your mother-in-law should have told people to ask you and/or your wife directly if she was uncomfortable telling them no children to begin with. I made an exception, and then our first dance was ruined by a child. My mother-in-law will come around once she gets over herself. A toddler dancing took the attention off of me for a minute, so I had them and their mom kicked out. Dear God, you are the idiot. music was playing and a kid was dancing. That's not running around and screaming. You went nuclear when a kid acted like a kid. What a crappy story to have about you on your wedding day. Based on worst opinions, their brother and his ex-wife divorced 3 years ago. They have a 10-year-old son. They have joint custody. Oh, again, not my concern. Actually, and when it comes to food, my nephew eats the same food that the rest of the family eats. I told her that he eats whatever he wants. But if we're eating pork and he wants to eat it too, we don't stop him. If he asks me to make something different, I'll do that. But he always eats the same food as everyone else. So, my ex-sister-in-law called me yesterday and told me to stop feeding him pork. And I'm not going to enforce her eating guidelines on my nephew. Also, not really my problem. She should talk to her ex-husband if she has any concerns. I checked with my brother. She'd already tried to talk to him, and he told her to screw off. So apparently, what happened was that my nephew asked his mom to make pork ribs because he ate them here and loved it. And it caused all of this. My husband says I could be more cooperative if I wanted to, only to keep the peace. I don't see how I should inconvenience myself by enforcing someone else's religious eating restrictions on her son, especially when the kid loves the food anyway and his dad doesn't mind. Am I the idiot for not being respectful of her wishes? You are the idiot. It's a pretty simple request. Don't make pork on the day the kid comes over. Do you not eat anything else? It's not some big inconvenience. It's a religious matter, which means the mom makes the decision. You and your brother are being petty because of your beef with your ex-sister-in-law. Pun intended. It's also an idiot move to argue that it's the child's responsibility to advocate for himself and ask for a different meal if he doesn't want to eat pork. That's a lot to put on a 10-year-old to decide if it's more important to politely eat the food that has been made for him by a family that knows he's not supposed to eat pork or follow the religion. He practices with his mom and stand up to the adults. I've been that child. Whenever the non-Jewish side of the family babysat me, my grandmother especially, they would always happen to be eating pork that day. I would always find it hurtful that they never remembered that I didn't eat pork. They never remembered. I couldn't have it, though years later, I realized that it really wasn't accidental and I always had to choose how to handle it, which was just different sorts of stressful. The idiot. She's your ex-sister-in-law. If your brother doesn't have an issue with his son eating pork, then you're doing nothing wrong. It's called joint custody for a reason. You also go out of your way to make him something else if he doesn't want to eat what you're eating. With prices of groceries, that's going above and beyond aunt duties. Aunt the idiot. I'm honestly very surprised that people are dragging you over the coals when you'll make something else if the kid asks. And it sounds like he likes pork. I guess forcing your religion and eating habits on a child old enough to say I do or don't like that's his normal to his mom. I'm not sure at what age a child gains bodily autonomy, but since forcing grandma's hugs on a toddler is traumatizing, I imagine forcing food choices is not far off.